what's up? It's been a while since I made one of these. This is my build, Divine Forged Weapons. I was originally planning to play this on hardcore, so it is not an insane zoomer build. It's very defensive focused. Uh, the goal with this build was to make it so it could basically ignore almost all mechanics and tank disgusting amounts of damage. Um, and yeah, I'm also not generally a minion player, but forged weapons are kind of interesting to me. I like the way they scale. The way forged weapons work is they basically get a copy of your weapon. So your weapon matters a lot because it literally they get all the stats on the weapon, unless like all the generic stats. So if it's something like special, which a lot of unique weapons have and stuff, things like uh, after X hits trigger this skill, that kind of stuff doesn't work generally. I've tried a lot of stuff. It generally just doesn't work. It's just generic stats that work. Um, so yeah, forged weapons are like kind of cool. We hit stuff. Some of these little swords. The swords are the thing generally that kill stuff. And so yeah, one of the problems before I've actually played forged weapons multiple times in the past, but one of the problems before with forged weapons was that in like the end game, they would just die, and so you would have no damage because they just couldn't stay alive. They buffed forged weapons, so they take 50% less damage and deal 30% more this patch. So they're kind of strong. And then this build also is focused around just because of the way the build works, we can just stand in all mechanics, healing ourselves and our minions constantly. So once we get up all of our minions, they pretty much just don't die. There's a few mechanics that do so much dot damage that we can't keep them alive if they're standing in the pool. One that comes to mind is like the pools that what's her name? Julra, I think, in T4 Temporal Sanctum. There's like a void pool that she puts in the ground, and it does so much damage that you can't heal your minions through it if they're standing in the pool. You have to actually make her move out of that pool. But that pool is really small, and it's like one mechanic. There were a lot of like damage over times that I could just stand in with my minions, even on normal Abberoth, and it was perfectly fine. I did the last 40% of Abberoth with 10 stacks of a debuff that put me at negative 25% all res because I just ignored it. And so at that point, I had to dodge a lot of stuff for the last 40%, but I was still tanking like an ungodly amount of stuff that most people couldn't tank even without having 10 stacks of that debuff. This build is insanely tanky, and it was designed for hardcore, but I'm playing in softcore because I lost internet the day before the league started, and I didn't feel like ripping to a DC if I lost internet again. So here we are. So yeah. So our forged weapons, we can get up to 12 of them. Let's go with our weapon. You can actually get up to 15, but I don't think the way you would get the additional 3 is worth it. You would get them from using... There's a set for forged weapons, but I don't think it's worth it. There's just better options than using the set. This build. So yeah, we have 12 weapons. They fuck shit up. They're little zoomers. We love them. So one of the other ways we can scale them is with this ring, which is called Phantom Grip. This has a lot of good stats on it. It has plus melee levels. We can give our minions additional crit chance. We can get some flat necrotic damage on our forged weapons. That isn't any of the interesting stuff. The interesting thing is the last line, which is stats in your gloves apply to your forged weapons. So if you look at forged weapons on the skill tree, we can look at all their tags and stuff. So the things that our forged weapons scale with is if we have minion damage or attunement, they get scaled. And then on the minions, if they have physical, melee, or area, or with this node that I'm hovering over right now, Forged by Fire, they also get the fire tag, so they can scale with fire too, because this node gives them some flat fire damage. But generally, we're trying to scale physical and melee. So if we could get like, so one of the really good things we can do with this ring is we can get E7 melee attack speed So we get the attack speed, which means it's easier for us to summon forged weapons, because we're hitting faster and we can like apply debuffs and stuff. But then the forged weapons also get the attack speed. Other stats that are good on here are tread armor. We can also get increased crit chance on gloves too, which will also get applied. And the rings give them base crit. I think the minions by default have 5 base crit. Each ring can give up to 4% base crit to the minions. So they go from 8 to they go to 13% base crit. I don't know why that was so hard for me. And then we can get increased crit chance on the gloves. I think a T5 increased crit chance is 50%. And if you had T7 crit chance, I think it's 100% increase. And then this gets doubled because we use 2 rings that are like high percentage. I think the effectiveness of the at the bottom, I think it can roll between 60 to 100% effectiveness of the stats in your gloves. So I have 2 like high rolled ones. So you would want attack speed, crit chance. Chance to shred armor is also really good, because all of them get it, and so you stack a ton of like armor shred. Here, I can show you. I have shred armor on my axe and on here, and then there's also some like shred armor you can get on the passive tree. I'm gonna stack up some and not get really unlucky. I have a 40% chance on hit to summon a forged weapon. Okay, so they're fucking them up. There's a bit of a ramping involved in this build. And so, one of the best stats you can get on this build is attack speed. Because you need attack speed to consistently summon your weapons. So attack speed's a multiplier on their damage. Okay? And it also scales, because we're getting a bunch of like shred armor, it also scales how many stacks of shred armor they get. So they take more damage that way too. And then also, we can only get up to a 40% chance with Vengeance on the skill tree to summon forged weapons. So the only other way to scale to generate forged weapons faster is to just attack faster. So the way we are generating forged weapons is with these nodes at the bottom. This gives us a 20% chance on hit with Vengeance to generate an Iron Blade. This gives us up to an 80% chance based on our attunement. With 2 points, you need 40 attunement, hit the 80%, and with 1 point, you need 80 attunement. And so these combined give us a 100% chance to generate an Iron Blade. Don't worry about what Iron Blades are; they literally don't matter. And then this one is Iron Blades have a chance to be summoned as a forged weapon instead, and at 4 points, it's 40%. So with all of these and enough attunement, we are capped at 40% chance to summon a forged weapon, basically, on hit. That's what that means. And so the only way to basically scale this faster, to like generate the forged weapons faster, is by getting attack speed. So attack speed is like the best stat in this build. And it scales too many things, basically. And then the second best stat after that is attunement, which I'll get into a bit later. So yeah, once you get some Phantom Grips, your gloves get really interesting. There is a set, I think it's called The Last Bear. It's like the set doesn't matter, but if you shatter that set, you can put one of the set pieces on gloves, and it's a suffix that gives increased physical damage, which means you can use a suffix for damage for your minion, other than just shred armor on hit. You can have like a quad damage gloves, where it's like attack speed, crit chance, the increased phys damage from that mod, the set mod, and also shred armor on hit. So those would be like ideal gloves because of double phantom script. So that's all the ways we're like scaling minions. There's some other stuff on like the passive tree and stuff. Like Forge Strike, we never actually press this button. It just has a ton of passives on the skill tree for scaling minions, or for scaling specifically the forged weapons. See how it says like also applies to forged weapons? So like this node is just 75% more damage for forged weapons. This makes them attack a larger area. This gives them flat damage. This lets us summon 4 more forged weapons. This gives them a chance to be summoned as axes. Gives them attack speed. This gives us ward every time we summon a forged weapon. And then there's this node, Shrapnel. Okay, so shrapnel is 50% more damage with forged weapons for 75% reduced duration. You do not want to click this unless you have tapped this, like unless you have the full 40% chance to summon minions, and you have enough attack speed to actually be able to maintain all of your forged weapons on a boss. Uh, so generally, you're not clicking this node until like probably you're in empowered monoliths already. Unless you like, yeah, you're probably not pressing this button until you're in empowered monolith. But yeah, we never press Forge Strike. This is literally just for nodes to buff our Forge weapons. Okay, so that's how Forge weapons work and all their like scaling and stuff. They scale with our attunement. Wait, hold on. They scale with our attunement. And like all their own stuff. Okay, so we're getting some attack speed and we're getting some attunement, and our forged weapons are chilling. Okay, what is next? Okay, I should just talk about attunement in general. So, attunement scales so much stuff in this build. It scales our chance to summon forged weapons. It scales how much damage our forged weapons do. It scales our healing with healing hands, which I'll get into this in a second. Healing hands has so much stuff going on. It scales our Ring of Shields health, which Ring of Shields is this Ring of Shields. We have to press this button every 16 seconds. There's a way to automate this with numlock. But I have like a cut down keyboard that doesn't have a numpad or anything. There's a way to use auto hotkey to automate this with a script, but I couldn't figure it out. And it's only once every 16 seconds, so whatever. I've just been pressing the button. Ring of Shields also just gives us a bunch of buffs and stuff. There's a past streak here, which is 50% chance to summon an additional shield every time we block. And then for every shield, we get increased block effectiveness. So we can end up with like, I want to say like double the number of shields we currently have, which is like 8. I think this is 8. But they also like heal everything around them and they buff us. So yeah, and then there's also attack, which I'm not gonna get into all of healing hands right now, but we basically turn healing hands into a movement skill. So it just dashes you to wherever you press. We make it so that we're immune while we're dashing. And then there's this node here called Cloud Voyager, which is a portion of healing hands remaining cooldown is recovered if you use it to heal an ally other than yourself. So this is 75% cooldown reduction on healing hands. So healing hands has a 6-second cooldown normally. So it has a long ass cooldown. The thing is, our Ring of Shields are minions, which means they're allies. So when we dash, if they're missing a single point of HP, and we heal them, because at the end of the dash, it uses the heal from healing hands, the cooldown basically goes to like here. It's basically almost instantly off cooldown. So you can just spam dash as long as your Ring of Shields are taking damage. So there's that. That's cool. I guess I'll just get into healing hands. Healing hands has so much going on. Okay, so this node makes it so that every time we melee attack, which is Vengeance, which is like our way of summoning minions and stuff, this like yellow thing here, that is healing hands. You can see if I dash, it does the same hits. So every time we attack, we proc healing hands with this node with 4 points in it. This uses healing hands mana, which is actually a good thing, kind of. Healing hands has a mana cost of 11, and there's a node in the Paladin tree that is increased healing effectiveness doubled with 10 mana cost spells. So we're intentionally keeping healing hands at 11 mana. You can reduce its mana cost with these nodes, but we're intentionally avoiding that. There's also this belt that I'm using, which is 100% of mana spent gained as ward. I think this goes up to 160% on that roll. But yeah, we basically gain even more ward from this spell because Healing Hands cost mana. And then we're getting around the mana cost, not draining our mana with this node here, which is gain 10 mana on hit with Vengeance. So we hit with Vengeance, we gain 10 mana, and then we spend 11 mana. So our mana basically just doesn't move, but we're still constantly spending mana. So that's how that works. These nodes over here make it so that Healing Hands doesn't just heal, it also gets ward based on your attunement, okay? So, and then 20% of the healing that Healing Hands would do is converted to ward. So it generates ward on us, because I just like zoned out so hard, I'm sorry. This gives us ward per attunement, so this is another way of stacking attunement, basically. This is ward per increased healing effectiveness. The thing is, Healing Hands gains healing effectiveness per point of ward, or per point of attunement, sorry. This gives us ward per attunement, so this is another way of stacking attunement, basically. This is ward per increased healing effectiveness. The thing is, Healing Hands gains healing effectiveness per point of ward, or per point of attunement, sorry, not ward. And then we also can get like more healing effectiveness on the tree here. So we're just basically scaling a ton of healing effectiveness. And then over here, we can make Healing Hands do damage. So when we proc Healing Hands, it does some fire damage. I mean, it's like, okay. Down here, we make it so that Healing Hands gets increased damage per level of specialized skill buff. Ring of Shields has the buff tag. Actually, does this actually count? This might not count because the buff tag is on the minion and not on the... Okay, that's annoying. I didn't realize that. Symbols of Hope, which we haven't got to, yes, has the buff tag, and Healing Hands has the buff tag. So, this is getting like 40% more damage from 2 points here, because this is level 20 and this is level 20. This is just some damage and increased healing. And then this makes it so that Healing Hands scales with melee stats instead of spell stats. It turns it into a melee attack, basically. So now it scales with like our weapon and stuff, which is really cool. I don't have it, but you can get +4 level of Healing Hands on your helm, which would replace this helm's don't. That helm's not good. Don't look at that. That was... I had an alarm go off, sorry. If you had that, you would put 4 points here, 1 on each of these, which is less product damage taken from enemies you hit, less void damage from enemies you hit, and increased melee damage per 20% increased healing effectiveness. This says spell damage, but this node is Seraph Blade changes this from being spell damage to melee damage. So it's +1 flat melee damage per 20% healing effectiveness. And we are getting a lot of healing effectiveness on Healing Hands. So this would give you a lot of flat damage for Healing Hands. Okay. Symbols of Hope. People generally use this for damage with these nodes over here, and the leveling tree has it using it for damage, but later in the game, we switched to using it as a pure defense. So Symbols of Hope, you used to have to cast it to get the symbols, but now they're just automated. You just have them all the time. They never drop off. They have no duration or anything. And when you press the button, you get some ward and damage reduction. Thing is, I never press this button. It's like almost never worth it to press the button because the symbols are giving us so many buffs. I have a list of like the total buffs you get in the written guide, if you want to look at that. But long story short is we get 5 symbols. It's base 3, and then we get another additional 2 from these 2 nodes. We get 120%. That number right? 30, 60, 90. 150% increased healing effectiveness. I can't do math. just all the time. We get in some endurance threshold. This node makes it so that our symbols, normally the symbols affect you and your minions. Well, they affect everything around you, like all your allies and stuff. But this node makes it so they only affect us, which is why we don't really care about like all the damage buffs for buffing our minions. Specifically, so we can get this node, a Sign of the Guardian, which, with 5 symbols, is giving us 15% block chance and like 225 block effect, I think, off the top of my head. So this node's like between this and this, the buffs are just crazy from literally doing nothing. It's just on us all the time. And we want that because this build can get block cap. So we block every single hit. So we're getting 61% damage reduction currently from our block effectiveness, and this is without like the buffs from things like Ring of Shields. Wait, I don't know why I didn't summon. It'll heal me. So this is just with these, not with the extra ones from blocking. Did that heal not hit me because they're rotating too far away? What? I just I gotta test something real quick. Live testing. That's so loud, I don't know why. Okay, I will fix the Ring of Shield skill tree. That's okay, you know what? You know what? I'm not perfect. I'm not perfect. That's too funny. Okay, I'll fix this skill tree. Look at the written guide. It'll have something better. I guess I'm just putting more points in here and here. How many points do I have? 6, right? 1, 2, 3, 4. Where did I put points? I wonder if I take immolation. You know what? I'm gonna do some testing on Ring of Shields. Okay, anyway. Well, Ring of Shields was supposed to be buffing us, but it wasn't. That's funny. I'm gonna be way tankier now. Okay. What else do we have to go over? Oh yeah, so defenses. So we're getting a bunch of armor. One of the other ways we're scaling attunement is, hold on. There's this node here, which is damage over time mitigation from armor per 2 attunement. So this is another way we're scaling attunement. There's a lot of just like generic like shield and block nodes and stuff. You can't use a shield until you get this point. So like in the leveling tree and stuff, it doesn't take anything shield related on any of the passives, and then it expects you to respec. I think it's level 66 or 67 when you could get this. So it has like there's like a leveling tree at the bottom of the written guide and stuff. So yeah, this is another attunement thing. What else is there? So we're block capped. We're getting all this block damage reduction from block. We're getting some mitigation from armor. We're generating tons of ward via healing hands. This is just like constant. Our healing hands also heals our minions that get hit and gives them ward. Maybe it doesn't give them ward. It might just heal them. Is there anything else that I should go over? We did the movement attack, healing hands, and Ring of Shield. Would reduce the cooldown if I was in combat. Oh, one other thing. So Vengeance. Vengeance has this thing by default. If Vengeance, in the tooltip, you can see, if Vengeance successfully hits an enemy, and you take a hit in the next 2 seconds, you will repost. Which, basically, if you hit something, and then within 2 seconds you get hit, that first hit will deal 25% less damage to you, and you'll deal a little bit of damage to them. We don't care about the dealing damage part. We just care about the damage reduction. And then we also take this node, which is We have 26% less damage taken if you've hit an enemy in the past 2 seconds. These stack, and then this also gives us increased armor. Riposte hits can't crit. This is good earlier on before you get crit cap from helm and gloves. Because this helm has implicit reduced damage taken from crits, and these boots also have implicit reduced damage taken from crits. You can get so that's basically all vengeance. The only other thing with vengeance. We also get some attack speed because attack speed is the best stat in the game for this build. And what else? There's a bunch of block stuff. A bunch of just generic like less damage taken, like 10% less damage taken if you have over 50% block. Less damage taken over time, and then doubled if you use a potion. Basically, this build is just insanely tanky. Okay, that's all you gotta know. Really, really tanky. Oh, items. Right. The other thing defensively is there are a bunch of really good uniques for this build. I talked about this a little bit earlier, but Strand of Souls gives us ward retention, so it's easier for us to maintain our ward. It gives us a little bit of ward per second, ward on kill, mana spent gained as ward, and when we use our potion, we also gain some ward. Makes our potion even better. It already was. This chest is completely disgusting. It got added this patch. It has implicit healing effectiveness, which is good. I'm pretty sure the implicit healing effectiveness rolls up to like 75% or something. It redirects some of the damage we take to our highest health minion. We have tons of minions. It doesn't really matter what one gets redirected to. We have a ring of shields, and we also have all of our forged weapons, which all count as minions. So one of them will take 20% of the damage that we take from hits. I can't remember how high that rolls. It might roll up to 24%. I can't remember what the number is. We also get, us and our minions get percent increased health. We get movement speed. We get strength, which gives us percent increased armor. And then the strength minion skills. Strength minion skills is both Ring of Shields. It has the strength tag, and Forging Strike, which then scales Forge Weapon. So we get levels in both those. This can roll up to +2, I think. There's also this shield, which is completely insane. This is from an echo that requires you to be at 300 corruption. It's from a boss. It's from like a buffed boss fight with I can't remember her name, Majasa, I think, or something. It's the snake lady from the end of Act 9. When I did the boss fight, I literally said an every mechanic, and she just died eventually. But this makes it so that our block effectiveness applies to damage over time as though it had been blocked. I can't remember how high it rolls. I think it rolls to 35%. And then we also can like petrify enemies that look at us, or when we block an enemy attack, and we can get up to 100% block. The petrify thing actually works on bosses, but it's just a really low chance. I have definitely petrified bosses since using this. There's also this amulet, Aurora's Time Glass. This basically, so hits like almost can't kill you in this build. The thing that'll kill you is dots. I mean, I'm sure that changes at like insanely high corruption, but just for like trying to do all content for the first time, the only thing that really kills you is dots. And this has the last line on this is, if damage leaves you below 30% health and doesn't kill you, you full heal, and it gives you ward equal to your life. So we get all of our health back, and we gain like over 2,000 ward instantly. And this can happen once every 20 seconds. So this item is completely broken in this build. Basically just makes you unkillable. As long as you... when this procs, you get a little buff on your buff bar that shows the cooldown going down. So when that buff goes away, you can proc this again. Another really good stat. So I was using... I can probably find... Actually, do I have it in my... No. Hold on, I can find my old amulet. You don't need Aurora's Time Glass. It's the second to last legendary item, or unique item that I farmed. My rings. Not rings. Amulets. So this was my amulet before I got Time Glass. Um, the ward per second and ward decay threshold line is really good. You can just get like an amulet like this with just minion damage, minion health, and the ward per second ward decay threshold. So I'm trying to havoc this so that the ward per second and ward decay threshold moves into the this T7 spell crit, but I ran out of havoc runes. So yeah, I'm trying to havoc this, and then I'm gonna slam the ward roll onto my Aurora Time Glass in Temporal Sanctum. And yeah, that is pretty much the build. Uh, build is don't take damage and eventually thing die. That is the whole goal of the build. There's a whole written guide again in the description. I did a lot of work on it. There's also a loot filter at the bottom, which is this loot filter. Wait, hold on. Which I've been working on a lot. The loot filter will take you from literally level 1 through leveling gear, and then it changes into the endgame filter. You literally don't have to do anything. You don't have to change what filter you're using. It will just find you good gear at all stages of the game. Like until level 8, you're using hammer throw. When you're leveling, you can't level with vengeance because it doesn't have a good enough chance to summon forged weapons. So the leveling setup, you thrive at the start because you can get chance summon forged weapons when you hit a boss or kill like a small enemy. Well, it means when you kill anything, we use it for killing small enemies. So you can play forged weapons right at the start of the game with thrive. So you put it. The leveling has you play Rive until you have 10 points in Vengeance, I think, off the top of my head. And then you switch from Rive to Vengeance. And then you just play Vengeance all the way to killing Abberoth. And yeah, that is the build. If you decide to play it, I hope you have fun. It's insanely chill. It's completely brain dead. Uh, a potato could play this. I'm Irish, I can say that. And yeah, I hope you have fun.